Hey everybody, welcome back to It's Only Food. I am Chef John Politte. Today we are going to be doing wine braised oxtails. Don't go away. Alright, well hello everybody and welcome back to It's Only Food. I am Chef John Politte, and today we're going to be making something very special. We're going to be following a recipe from the New York Times food magazine, and it's called wine braised oxtail. Oxtail is actually cowtail. I don't know why they call it oxtail, give it a fancier, more exotic name, but it's just basically cowtail that they cut into chunks that are good sized. You'll see them when we get into the application and the cooking here. They go from fat all the way down to small, just like a tail on a cat or a dog or an ox or a cow. So they are tough. They have a bone in it, a cartilage, and the braising process that we're going to be using will actually tenderize this into a very fantastic piece of meat. It's going to be a good end product and it's going to taste fantastic. So let's head over into the kitchen. This has got a lot of ingredients, so let's head over there and see what we've got to cook with today. Of course, we've got the oxtails, a little bit of olive oil, some shallots. We're going to use onions, carrots, celery, tomato paste. I'm going to use ketchup, garlic cloves, a bottle of red wine. It says here a chicken stock, but I didn't have any chicken stock. I thought I did, so we're just going to use a little beef stock. Some parsley, some rosemary, some bay leaves, and of course some zest of lemon that we're going to use on the top of it to garnish it at the end when we plate it up and present it to you. We also have some that wasn't in the list of ingredients. I've got some flour, salt and pepper, and some allspice that we're going to do the dredging of the oxtail in. It's not in the list of ingredients that I told you, but it is when you go to the recipe, which I will add the link to this into the section below, so it's available for you to look at and perhaps try on your own. So when we come back, we will start cooking. We'll see you. Okay, we have our oxtails. Now what I'm going to do is the first step of this recipe. I'm going to take the flour. The recipe actually doesn't have how much flour to put, but you're just going to coat these up with some flour and seasoning. So here's what I've got. The recipe calls for 2.5 teaspoons, which is almost a tablespoon. So there's a tablespoon, 2 teaspoons of black pepper. It's about 2 teaspoons. And you got some allspice, and that's about 1/2 teaspoon right there. So, and put that into the flour. Mix that all up. Alright, now we're basically just going to take our oxtail and we're just going to put it into the flour and dredge it and get all sides covered with that flour mixture, because we're going to fry that to lock in and seal all the flavors. I'm just setting them onto a separate clean plate where we will cover them with plastic wrap and let them sit in the refrigerator overnight or 2 hours. The recipe says 2 hours to overnight. We're just going to go 2 hours just to get this, to form a nice color or crust on here, and let the flavors get into that meat. Alright, well this calls for carrots, celery, and onions, kind of a mirepoix. We're making almost like a stew here. So I've got, what I've got basically first is I have baby carrots. I'm not going to do the carrots like it asks for the peeling and all that. I like baby carrots. I think they're unique, and I like to use them a lot in stews and soups and things like this. So I'm going to cut the celery about the same size as this. They say in the recipe to kind of dice it up into 1/4 inch pieces. I'm going to do something about this size because I think it'll look good in the end when we plate it and garnish it. So I'm going to pour our amount of carrots that we need into our bowl here, and then we're going to cut up our celery about the same size as those carrots, and then we'll just add that to the bowl as well. Our onion is going to go in a separate bowl because we're going to cook this first and caramelize it after we get those beef tails out of the fat that we're cooking them in. This too I'm going to cut about the same size as our carrots and celery. Not only will it be for the cooking time because of the uniformity, but also, like I said, the whole process of plating and garnishing, it will be a lot nicer to look at. Alright, this part is kind of weird because it calls for us to make a bouquet garni or a satchel of these herbs. I got the parsley, I got the rosemary, and I got the bay leaves, as you can see here. The problem is I don't have any string. I've looked all over the house. My wife has gone off to babysit the lovely grandchildren, and I'm not going to call her because then she'll think I'm a real moron because I don't know where any string is. So I found this wire in the drawer that's got all the knickknacks in it, and I'm just going to use that because I don't think it'll melt, and I don't think it's going to hurt the flavor of anything anywhere. So there, we've got our rosemary and our parsley tied together. And then we've got our, I'm going to leave these out because I can actually pick the bay leaves out. I'm going to put 3 in there. There's 3 bay leaves. I'm not going to tie them in there. You got to remember to break the bay leaves to release their flavor though. So there is our bouquet garni right there, or our satchel with the flavors of the fresh herbs, which we will add when the time comes. Yeah, I just want to get a nice shot of this first. This is the Dutch oven my wife got. She went out and purchased this for me after years of me requesting one. It is, I actually want to do beans in it. I love doing beans. But Dutch ovens are great for like fireplace, or I'm sorry, fire cooking, or you can put it in the oven after you put all the ingredients into it. Of course, braising them as you go. But I thought I'd give her a little love on this. Kenmore. I think she got it at pennies on sale for like half price or less than half price, so she did good. I think I'll keep her. Alright, we've got our pot. Taking the lid off. Gonna turn the heat on. We want about medium-high heat. And I'm gonna add enough oil in here so we can get our oxtails seared up. So at least the bottom of it covered. I always put something in there just to see how the heat's going. That's a little piece of parsley. Once it starts to crackle and pop, we know that the heat is where we want it to be. And remember, you want it hot enough to where it sears that meat to hold that flavor in. Here's our oxtails that we did a few hours ago. I pulled them out. I want them at room temperature before I put them into the hot oil, just because I just am that way. And then here's a clean plate that we're going to put the ones we've browned them off. We're going to put them on this plate and hold them while we do our other application with the onions and the vegetables. So let's go back to our oil. All right, I'm going to add the oxtails in. And just like when you fry in the pan, you don't want to overcrowd these. And we got our little guy there. Let's get the raw product plate out of here. And you're basically just going to brown these on all sides, not just the brown parts, but all sides. You want to get a good color crust on all parts of the meat before we pour it into the liquid. Or the liquid gets poured into that. However, so it's a lot of work turning and turning. That's why you don't want to overcrowd them either, because that's, if you overcrowd it, then you can't turn them as easy. Turn the heat down just a little bit and pull these out onto our separate plate where it's clean. You can see we got all those bits in there now. So we're going to scrape off of that a little bit. Now the heat's gone down just a little bit. I'm going to add my onions. It said shallots, but we're doing onions. Get these in here, let them caramelize a bit, probably about 10 minutes. That smell is fantastic. Alright, we're getting a little bit of sugar out of this too. Onions are starting to brown a little bit. So at this point I'm going to add our celery and our carrots in there. And we're just going to stir this all up and let that cook. I really love cooking like this, where you have different steps in the process. We dredge the meat in the flour with the salt, pepper, and the allspice, and then we cook that in the oil, and then that brought out flavor, and it seared the flavor in. And then we added the onions, and then we brought out the flavor of the onions with the sugars in there, then added the celery and the carrots and the garlic. Then we add wine, and then we add beef stock and the meat. I mean, we could just dump it all in a pot, cover it up, and throw it in the oven. And I really do think that it would taste differently than what we're doing right now. All right, at this point, that's kind of getting some flavor mixed into it. I'm going to turn the oven on now. Turn it on to 325. I kind of want to go low and slow. Now I'm going to add our ketchup. It did call for tomato paste. Doesn't matter here because this is basically, I think we're adding this, I do believe, because the acidity in the tomatoes will break down the fibers of the meat. So that's being introduced into this dish at a small level to aid in that cooking process. So that's in. And then we're going to add our garlic. About a cup of chicken stock. Remember, we're using beef stock. It says a whole bottle of wine, but I don't know if I want to give up this whole bottle of wine because I'm going to use it again for stuff. But I've got a nice Cabernet Sauvignon that I'm using in this. A nice dark red wine. You can use Burgundy or maybe some Chianti. But I'm going to pour about 3/4 of it in. Just because maybe I'll want a glass of this. Ah, heck with it. It's going in. All of it in. Then we're just going to bring this to a boil. When it gets to a boil, we're going to turn it down to a simmer. Oh, forgot. Got to put our bouquet garni in there. And our bay leaves. Snap them so the flavor comes out. Just let that, whoa, dog's getting upset because she's locked up. Oh. It says here, turn the oven on, we've done that. Pour the wine and the stock into the pot, bundle parsley, sprigs, rosemary branches, and bay leaves with kitchen twine and drop into the pot. Bring the mixture to a boil and then simmer over low heat until the liquid is reduced by half. So we're about there. I'm going to mix this up just a little bit. We're going to let that come to a boil. So you can see that it's bubbling around the edges now. Got it to a slow simmering boil. The reason they want you to reduce it by half is because we're going to cover it up with this lid. You see how heavy that is. Once we get the oxtails back in, we're going to put that lid on it and throw it into the oven to cook the rest of the way. And liquid can't reduce once it's been covered in a high heat pot. It'll stay the same, but we have added the flour in here. The flour will make this into a gravy almost too. So we don't want too much liquid in there. And another reason, when it reduces, it adds more flavor too. So we're gonna let this go. It smells fantastic. I cannot wait to get this into the oven to get this started because it smells fantastic. We're gonna let this reduce by half, and when we come back, we'll add the oxtails and put it in the oven. All right, this is not quite half, but we're close enough. I do want it to still have some liquid to sit in. So, and if it's too much liquid for a gravy, I can certainly thicken it up. So I'm going to put everything back in, meaning the oxtails. We want it in the liquid. And we can actually let it reduce a little more like that too. I just wanted to show you what that looks like in there because I'm going to get a nice picture of this too. But I wanted you to see what it looks like in with all the ingredients. Getting ready to go. All right, at this point now, I'm going to put the lid on. I'm turning my oven off. I'm sorry. The lid on, I've got the burner off because now we're going to put it into the oven. Always be sure you got enough room for that pot to go in on your shelf with the space too, because It'd be kind of embarrassing to go in there with it. I got hot pants because this is hot. Now I'm going to put it in there for 3 hours. We did put it in there for 3 hours, but we're going to check it every half hour and flip the meat so it cooks evenly and throughout. And once that bone starts to pull out, we know it's done. But the recipe says 3 to 3.5 hours, so that's what we're going to do. But we will check it, so don't go away. I'm going to let the cat play with the cork from the wine bottle because it's on the floor and he's betting it around. And I'm going to let poor Callie out of her cage now so she can wander around without knocking over tripods and light stands. We'll see you in a bit. All right, we've taken the lid off. We're going to take a look at that. As you can see, the color is nice and brown. I'm just going to turn these over so they cook evenly every half hour for 3 hours. And that's the little one we added there. That'll be the ready to go first. But that is smelling absolutely fantastic. And it smells, and I bet it's going to taste good. The color is good on it. You can see the fat coming to the top too. But we'll skim all that off when we make our sauce and add it to the plate as a sauce and gravy when we present it. So I'm going to put the lid back on too. I'll put it back in. Here we are with about a half hour left to go. The meat is falling apart a little bit. Not quite yet, but I did grab a little bit off that I'm going to taste. It's off the smallest part of the smallest bone there that we saw. So I'm going to put this back in the oven for another hour, maybe half hour. I'll check it and let you know. Out of the oven, we are done. I'm just going to take that lid right off of there. And look at that. Oh my goodness. I'm going to let this cool. But first I'm going to take all these pieces of meat out of here. And I'm going to put them on a separate plate, and then when we cool down a little bit, then we can take that meat off. So, oh, it's falling apart. Yep, smells fantastic. Get that little one there. I'm going to take it off the hook here so we can travel around with this camera. Alright, we've got the juice in there still. I'm going to let this just cool a little bit, get all that fat off. I don't want to stir it up or I'll stir it right into there again. Let that fat rise to the top and we'll skim a little bit of it off. And also let these shanks, I'm sorry, this isn't shanks, these are beef oxtails, yeah. Keep thinking ossobuco. We're going to let these cool so I can shred the meat off. Well, you know what comes next. Now it's the part where we take really good pictures of it after we plate it up. Get some good music underneath that. And we taste it. So don't miss that. We'll be right back. Oh my gosh. Wow, that is really good. That is so tender. So tender. And that meat that I took off the bone, I only took it off about 1.5 of those 3 that I had. And it's a ton of meat here and it's still a ton of meat on that table, or that plate over there. And it's just, I can't believe how much meat came off of these things. It just looked like they were just bony. That's really good. That's almost like something you're gonna pay for in a restaurant with like $45, $50. Very tender, absolutely tender. And these vegetables, If you're having a hard time getting your kid to eat vegetables, do it this way. Oh my gosh, best carrots I've ever had. All right, well, and that the lemon that was in that recipe, I shredded it up, or I zested it with the parsley and put it on top. It's like a gremolata that you'd use in a ossobuco, and it's really good on glazed meat. That lemon is bringing out a lot of the flavor too. You can taste the wine, you can taste the garlic, you can taste the stock, you can taste everything in it, of course, because it's, you know, sat there for 4 hours in a pot and cooking. But it is mostly that fat rendered out of there too, and I'm not really going to use a lot of that because it's a lot of fat in there that rendered out of this dish into that thing. I might wait till it gets cold enough, then I'll just skim all that off later. But for the purpose of this show, I'm not going to do it. So this is very, very good. This is restaurant quality food right here. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. Thanks a lot for watching. If you have not subscribed to this channel, go ahead and do so now. Comment below, like this video, get it out there on Twitter, and then share this with everyone you know. Thanks a lot for watching today. This has been Chef Politte. You take care of yourself. Bye-bye.